And Chris Rose to the show. How you doing today, Chris?
I am great, guys. Yeah, the human rain delay was one of my favorite players too. I'm happy he doesn't speak as slowly as he did getting into the batter's box.
As a kid, I hated Pat
because
Tabler
he replaced my car.
I just had irrational hatred.
Pat Tabler was Mr. Bases Loaded. Come on.
He was the replacement to my car. In my mind, at least.
Got it. How we doing today, boys? We doing all right?
You're ready for the Cavs.
You got the Guardians hat.
Yes.
Are you hearing that echo? Chris, or was it only us that were hearing it?
I don't know. I'm not hearing it, but I can probably plug in some headphones here somewhere along the line. Let's see if I'm doing that. Okay. Hold on.
I was hearing the echo as well. It wasn't just you.
All right, I think that's the problem.
How's that? Is that better?
Much better.
That's
Much
it.
better. That
fixed the problem. Hey, Chris, I don't know if you probably didn't hear the beginning of the interview with Hargrove, but because of his reputation, of course, as you said, the human rain delay, I asked him what he thought of the pitch clock rule because it makes the batter be ready also much quicker. And surprisingly, he said he liked it. He said it's the only new rule in baseball that he likes.
Yeah, I mean, it's sped up the tempo of the game. I get it. The one thing we're not going to know is what it means to pitchers' health. We're not going to know that for a decade or so. Does it have some impact on it? Is it the major reason we're seeing some guys come down with elbow injuries? I don't think it's the major, but it could be a contributing factor. I've talked to plenty of pitchers who have said, yes, they do feel a little rushed. And so, but they're not going to say that that's ultimately the end-all, be-all as to why guys are getting injured. But I think it's been good for the game. There's no question. I mean, baseball is being played at a much better tempo. It's being cut down by between 20 and 27 minutes a game, but it's also just created an immediacy to the sport, which I kind of like.
Chris, it feels like a great time to be a Cleveland sports fan, like one of the best.
Hell yeah.
All three teams are good. I mean, how often has that happened, right? The Browns coming off a good season, even with all the injuries. The Guardians exceeding expectations early in the season, and obviously the Cavs so far have played well in the postseason, which I know it's playoffs right now for the Cavs, so I'm guessing you say that, but which team are you most excited about at the moment?
Most excited? I mean, I'm not going to pick and choose when it comes to all three of our teams being in good shape. Like, I love it all.
Yeah.
So, actually, it was nice to have the Cavs game on a Guardians day off on Monday. I thought that was great. I was not, obviously, I'm watching the game on TV. It doesn't feel like this is a playoff series. It really doesn't, for whatever reason. I don't know if because it was on NBA TV last night, and maybe it's because Orlando hasn't led for a second in the series. It just doesn't feel. The only reason it feels like a playoff series is because Mo Wagner is now getting Kelly Olynyk vibes in that building. Other than that, it just doesn't. Like if we win, which I expect us to now, and go on and play the Celtics, that's going to feel like a playoff series. Oh, God, get that guy off my screen. I don't need to see him.
He ain't that bad of a guy, Chris. I mean, he made a mistake.
Well, he did. It was nice. He did check out the fan and made sure that Garland was okay, so that part was fine. He's just got one of those whiny faces that, you could put on if somebody was smart in Cleveland, they'd make a starting five of Cleveland Cavaliers' most hated, whiny faces. So you'd put Olynyk on there. You'd probably put Lane Beer on there. Mo Wagner is working his way into the starting lineup. There's probably a few other
Noah, maybe?
you could put on there too.
Noah?
Oh, yeah. Noah.
Draymond.
With his Cleveland timeshare, T-shirt on.
Right.
Chris, I want to talk about the Guardians a little bit more. We had a discussion earlier. Do you think that Josh Naylor is the best hitter on the team over Jose right now?
I mean, he's always been able to hit. Always been able. Since the minute he was drafted by Miami, that guy has always raked. The question was whether or not he could get everything together emotionally enough to be an everyday baseball player. That's what I had guys telling me when we picked him up from the Padres. They said, listen, Nails is as talented a hitter as we've ever seen. Can he be a guy that hones it in? And as emotional as he's been, he's able to compartmentalize that in his at-bats. And he is a fantastic, fantastic hitter. Now, he's totally different than Jose. Jose just smacks these line drives all over the field when he's going well. The one thing I'm worried about with Naylor is that I hope we didn't miss the opportunity to extend him, because now he's 2 years away from free agency. I think he's a guy that you want around. I believe in who he is. He's a great teammate for dudes. He's intense, and he is as productive a bat in the middle of the order as you'll find right now. He's not a guy that's going to hit you 35 home runs, but man, when there's dudes on base, give me that guy.
No doubt. Chris is going to be part of NFL Network's coverage of the NFL Draft. And as you know, Chris, for many years, the NFL Draft was the Super Bowl here in Cleveland, as the Browns often had 2 first-round picks. One year they had 3 first-round picks. But now, it's an afterthought. We've talked about the draft less this year than ever before. It doesn't even feel like it's this week, but now it is. For other teams, it's a big deal. Now, at least the Browns will be picking, we think, in the second round this year. What are you hoping they do without an obvious need for the Browns in the second round?
Well, they need to get younger on the defensive line. So they need somebody that can come in and contribute this year, but also learn from some great veterans. I thought bringing back Shelby Harris and Mo Hurst was a big deal. Yep. But those are guys that are closer to the end than the beginning, and you need dudes that can be a permanent fixture for between 4 and 7 years, and that's what we don't have right now, in my opinion. So I would look at defensive tackle, certainly, with that 54th pick. I would look at receiver, because they've got a couple of guys who could walk out the door after this year. Who knows what they're going to do contractually with Amari Cooper and Elijah Moore. Yeah, I see some of those names on there. Troy Franklin's skinny but interesting. Xavier Legette is a guy that I find fascinating. He's out of South Carolina. There are some people that feel like he could be a Deebo Samuel-ish clone with his body type. Ricky Pearsall out of Florida had the catch of the year a season ago. Go look it up on YouTube if you haven't seen it. Keon Coleman, interesting guy. I do think that all those guys could provide something this year, and certainly something down the road. So there's plenty of guys there at 54 that could help us immediately and also fill out that room in 2025 and beyond.
Chris, we've paid such little attention to the draft. Help us out. Where's the first surprise going to be on draft night? Have you gotten any inkling of a team that might surprise, or a player in terms of where they go?
I think it starts at 3 with New England, because even though that they have a quarterback vacancy sign hanging out in their front yard, they could get through with our old buddy Jacoby Brissett easily this year, easily. So let's say that Jay Daniels goes 2 to Washington, okay? And let's say for whatever reason they don't love Drake May. And they just say, hey, you know what, he could be good. But you don't have to take a guy at 3 just because you don't have a quarterback. They are lacking so much talent. They have drafted 1 wide receiver in the first round since 1997. 1, and that was N'Keal Harry, and he stunk, right? You have got a chance, whether it's Marvin Harrison Jr., whether it's Malik Neighbors, or Rome Odunze, who I think is probably the 3rd best out of that triumvirate, to finally get some high-end talent in New England. They have had nobody. So it wouldn't shock me if they passed on a quarterback. It wouldn't shock me if somebody else wants to move up to 3. So I think that's exactly where the draft's going to start, and that's where it could be a ton of fun.
Chris, give me your one prospect of this draft that you say is a for sure thing. This is a can't miss guy. Who's the one prospect that you like in this whole entire draft?
Well, I'll take it outside of the quarterback realm, because as we just learned when Zach Wilson got traded yesterday, 4 of those 5 guys that were drafted in the first round in 2021, I didn't say like 2015, I said 2021, did not make it through their entire rookie contracts with the team that drafted them. So I'm going to leave the quarterbacks off to the side here. I think Brock Bowers, the tight end out of Georgia, is going to be an animal wherever he ends up, and he damn well better get picked by somebody before he slides all the way to Cincinnati at 18. We do not want to see that. That could be the worst thing for us. I think this kid, Quinion Mitchell, the cornerback out of Toledo, is going to be fantastic. I think he is going to be sensational. I think he can play in a lot of different systems, and I wouldn't mind saying that he's going to be all right in my book.
Mikey McNuggets.
Chris, when you look back at your history as a Browns fan, let's go at least the last 10, 15 years in recent relative history. Who was a draft pick you loved at the moment that didn't pan out, and a draft pick for the Browns you're like, I don't really like that, but you ended up being wrong on?
Good question.
Thank you.
So the guy I ended up being wrong on, I think, I want to say it was the 2009 draft when we had the 5th pick and we traded out, and I think the Jets took Mark Sanchez, and we ended up trading back and we took Alex Mack, and I was like, we freaking took a center? Like, did we really just do that? Didn't we just do that with, what was his name, Jeff Payne?
Yep.
Out of Notre Dame? I was like, why do we keep drafting centers? And Alex Mack had a great career and was awesome for us. And then we did that weird tag with him, and he ended up leaving after being on that tag. It wasn't the franchise tag. It might have been the transition tag, something like that.
Yep.
So he was excellent, I thought, when I wasn't so sure about that move. The guy who was the receiver out of Ohio State, whose dad was our interim coach.
Brian
for a minute.
Robisky.
Yeah,
Brian Robisky. Yeah. I always thought he was going to be better. I thought, he wasn't a speedster or anything like that, but I always loved the way he ran routes. I thought the fact that his dad was an exceptional wide receivers coach was going to help him. I thought he was a guy who would always be able to just find an opening and find his place in the NFL, because there's always space. Like Keenan Allen's not a burner, but he's played the game now for over a decade and has been phenomenal. It surprised me that he wasn't any good.
All right, Chris, let's wrap it up with this question. This is probably the most important question you've ever been asked. Let's say
Yes, ever.
that you and Steve Becker commit a bank robbery together, okay?
Right.
And you guys get arrested. Would you have faith that Steve would not rat you out? Yes or no?
Oh, yeah, it'd be the other way around.
You'd rat him out.
Yeah, I'd be gone. Well, in part because he went to Michigan, right?
Great answer.
So, right, for people that
great
are
answer.
going, who the hell is Steve Becker? Steve is one of the alleged executives here.
Alleged.
Of the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show. Well, yeah, I mean, that's what we keep hearing.
Yeah.
I don't even know if he's ever been there. So, are you getting a good text right now? Anything interesting that's happening on the text? What do we got? Are you texting?
I know. We haven't seen Steve in like 8 months. I don't know if he's still working on the show or
Steve
not.
used to pay us a visit like every 3 or 4 months, and
I think he's coming in
Right.
May.
I can't kill him
He's coming in
today. He got me out of jury duty today, so I got to appreciate him for that.
no, he went to the team
Come
up
on,
north. He's terrible.
You would have been a great foreman in a jury.
Thank
in
you,
a
Chris.
in a
I think I
deliberation
would've.
room.
But I didn't want
You
to miss
would've
the
been
500th
unbelievable.
show tomorrow, so I got
Is
out.
that what it is? Congratulations.
Thank you.
Very good.
Thank you. Tomorrow,
Very
500th
good.
show.
Steve said he only
Awesome.
comes to Cleveland when it's warm.
Yeah, Chris. We
See you in
know
July.
That, so now we know that Chris would rat out Steve. I don't know.
Steve says I am not a rat.
He's not a rat. He claims he's not.
Well,
Thank you, Chris.
That's true.
We appreciate it. Good luck with the draft.
You got it,
NFL
guys.
Network, great coverage.